Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Lovely Freaks podcast. I'm your host, Amanda.
And I'm Hannah.
And if you're new here, hi, welcome. If you like things strange and unusual and true crime, you can go ahead and hit that subscribe or follow button. You can also head down to our description box, and there will be a Linktree link that will take you to our social media, Instagram, Facebook, all that jazz.
And all that jazz.
And I'll just plug in our Instagram right here. It is at Lovely Freaks Podcast on Instagram. So head over there and go ahead and follow us because that's where we post a lot of our stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. So we're back. Sorry, we took a break Tuesday, but Easter and I didn't do any research, so that happened.
Deal with it.
Yeah. But we're back at it today, and this case is going to be pretty crazy. So if you saw the title, then you kind of know what it's about. Well, kind of. It's about a house that has a demonic presence. It involves a mother, a grandmother, and 3 kids. And this one is actually not too long ago. This one happened back in 2011. So it was not...
Where was it?
Not too long ago. It was in Gary, Indiana, and we'll kind of get into all that. The title of this is called Demon House because that is the name of the documentary that Zak Bagans, I think that's his... of Bagans. No, not the Lord of the Rings, although that would be nice. No, he is, Ghost Adventures?
Mm-mm.
You don't know that show, Ghost Adventures? The show.
Not that I know it.
Like, the Ghost Hunter show.
Oh,
okay,
the
so
anime
you got the...
thingy?
No.
Oh, no.
Where they go investigate ghosts.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So you've got Ghost Hunters. Oh, I just popped my freaking pinky. Jesus
Okay.
Christ. Sorry. That was random, but I almost broke my own pinky. So you've got Ghost Hunters, and then you have Ghost Adventures.
Oh,
so
okay.
this is the guy, Zak. He's kind of like the... What's the word I'm looking for? Main guy of Ghost Adventures. And he is the guy that pretty much made this documentary. It's called, like I said, it's called Demon House. He's a paranormal investigator. I don't particularly like Ghost Adventures. I know there's a lot of people out there that love Ghost Adventures, and it's okay. It's some people's guilty pleasures. But I can't handle his acting, so.
Yeah. I don't like Ghost Hunters because I don't remember Ghost Adventures, but I remember Ghost Hunters, and I don't like how they would they'd hear a sound and they would be super too much. They'd be like, oh my God, what is that sound?
What was that?
What was that, Billy? Did you get it?
Yeah.
That was that's too much.
Well, this Zak guy, to give you kind of a perspective if you don't know about him, he has a a museum of oddities and things like that in Las Vegas. So he's a very he has a book, and it's like the front of the cover is Scream satire. It's really bad. So the museum's cool. It's got some things in the museum have he bought certain things. I think he has Ed Gein's pot that he roasted bodies in and stuff like that. So he's got pretty cool stuff in there. And I'm not saying that he's not a paranormal investigator, but some things can be over the top. He claims that this investigation, though, was really hard for him. And after filming this documentary, he was sick for days and days and days. A lot of crew members that filmed this documentary, they quit while filming. Some of them also quit after or never came back to help him or whatever. This also took 3 years to film. There is some controversy around whether or not the reason why it took so long was because the family that we're going to get into didn't want to talk to him. They claimed because they didn't want anything to do with him because he had been into the house, and they were scared that he would have pulled an entity from the house and it would attach themselves back to the family. So they were kind of scared to talk to him. But then some people said, well, actually they had a movie deal with a producer. So that's why they weren't talking to him. But I don't know. And then, so he actually bought this house. So the family we're going to talk about, obviously they moved out. And when they moved out, there wasn't anybody really living there. So he called the landlord, and I think the landlord's name is Charles. He said that he didn't have any paranormal problems with the house, but also he was having trouble finding anyone that wanted to buy it or even live in it to rent. So, of course, he's going to kind of claim that. To me, I feel like he's going to claim, oh, yeah, there's no paranormal problems.
Yeah.
No, because you need to come. I need the money. So,
yeah, exactly.
nothing's wrong. Come live. Come live in my house.
Exactly.
So, I kind of feel like maybe that's why he said that, because everyone that's ever stepped foot in this house has had some sort of paranormal experience. So, Zak, the guy, I'm pretty sure it's Bagans or Bagan. I don't know. Whatever. The Zak, the documentary guy from Ghost Adventures. He bought this house. I think he bought it for like $35,000, so it was super cheap. And there's been tons of mediums that have come to this house over the years. There's also been people that claim to be clairvoyant and have just been able to watch the documentary and know how many demons were in the house. I don't know how true I believe that.
Yeah.
They say that there's over 200 demons in this house, is what they feel, what these mediums feel. Also, at the beginning of the documentary, there's a full disclaimer that says, if you watch this, you could be inviting the demons from the house into your home. Please be aware, blah, 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 blah. I don't necessarily believe that. Even if you are a demonologist, there's a lot of demonologists that kind of got upset with him saying that. Of course, any horror movie or documentary, anything like that you watch, even us doing this research, you can feel unsettled, or you can have certain experiences happen afterwards. But to say that you're going to be cursed or haunted forever
doesn't happen. It has to be really like happen. Something,
and usually,
or the documentary.
That's what a lot of demonologists,
that could happen.
Yeah, a lot of demonologists were like, that tends to happen to us because we're very open to the world of the demons and spirits and things like that, but it usually doesn't happen to regular folks who are not mediums or demonologists or clairvoyant or anything like that. Okay, so just want to throw that out there. You're not going to be cursed if you watch the movie.
And it's probably they just wanted to
scare, add the scare factor.
Yeah.
Okay, Latoya Ammons is the mother. Her mother is Rose, so she's the grandmother, and then there's 3 children. We don't have their names because she did not want to put her kids' names out there, which I completely understand, but they are 7, 9, and 12. They moved into the so-called demon house located at 3860 Caroline Street in Gary, Indiana in November of 2011. A couple of days after moving in, and this was during the winter, by the way, so they had black horseflies, or just like these huge big flies swarming the porch. It was kind of odd because, like I said, it's during the winter, and you don't see a lot of flies. Definitely don't see horseflies in the winter. So no matter how much they killed them or exterminated them or whatever, they always kept coming back. Rose the grandmother, excuse me, she said that she would hear, like, all the time footsteps in the house, and down in the basement they would hear doors creak. At one point, I think that they were even like asleep or something, and she heard the door to the basement open, which, first of all, fuck a house with a basement, never having that. But anyways, I just thought that was really crazy. So she said that she would see shadowy, and pretty much everybody in the house kind of saw this, but she distinctly remembers this one part where she said that she saw a shadowy figure of a man in the living room one day, kind of like pacing back and forth, and then after the shadowy figure left, they found boot prints in the living room where he had been at, or the shadow had been at. So
like
Latoya, traces
of boot prints.
Latoya, and a lot of everybody else said that they would see shadows, and they would feel presence of someone like pushing them, or pulling their hair or something like that. Latoya would have her temperature rise super fast and then get body aches, and then all of a sudden it would go away. She would have sometimes like bad body aches in like her shoulders, and things like that. One of the kids was thrown out of the bedroom. Like, they were walking. It was either, I think it was the bathroom. He was in the bathroom, and he was using the bathroom or brushing his teeth or whatever. And then he started walking out, and something just kind of pushed him over the threshold and, like, tossed him out into the hallway.
Damn.
The oldest, who was 12, she was a girl. She was taunted by voices she would hear tell her that her family was going to die. She would also get slapped really hard in the face, or her head slammed up against the headboard of her bed. The kids barely slept because of this, and then that kind of led to them missing a lot of school. But Latoya would even, like, they didn't have a lot of money, but she would try to, like, get as much money together as she could so they could stay in, like, a hotel for just one night to just get sleep. Whatever was in the house was starting to obviously make her kids act really strange. They would have evil looks and grins on their faces sometimes. One night during a sleepover with friends, the 12-year-old daughter levitated off of her bed. She was unconscious. I think the mom and the grandmother, and maybe it was a couple more relatives, were downstairs, and she said they heard her daughter say, "Mom, come here." When they got into the bedroom, she was unconscious on her bed, but she was floating off of her bed. She was levitating off of her bed. So she couldn't have said, "Mom, come here." And we know that sometimes, you know, demons or spirits will mimic the sounds.
Oh, I was thinking of possess.
Well, that too, but they will mimic the sounds of whoever to try to get them, you know, to coax them into wherever they need them. So when she came to, she didn't have any memory of this, the girl. But her family, in order to, like, kind of, because they weren't super spiritual, but they did pray, and I believe they were Christians. The grandmother didn't experience heavy things like being pushed or it
was mostly the kids.
Nothing like that. It was the kids and the mom, and the grandmother claims that she didn't experience the bad stuff because she says that she has, like, a guardian angel watching over her. So, excuse me. But when the 12-year-old girl was levitating off the bed, the family members and whoever else was there gathered around her bed and started praying, and they prayed and prayed and prayed until she, like, kind of laid back down. Like, she started going back down on the bed. And then she woke up and she didn't have any memory of it. The kids would be constantly thrown across the room by unknown forces, and that's kind of typical. You know, we talked about that in the Conjuring.
So are these demons? They're just demons. They're not
well, at this point, they don't know what they are.
Okay.
They don't have a clue. But according to paranormal
studies
research that we know, ghosts can't harm you, but demons can.
So I was gonna say maybe they're kids because they're children ghosts because they're just harming the children. But now that you say demons, I don't know. I guess they gravitate towards them.
Well, demons. I'm not a demonologist, so I'm just gonna throw that out there, and I'm not a clairvoyant or anything like that. But through my research as a lover of paranormal investigation, I have found that, as you know, like, children are more susceptible to demons, and some people think it's because they're closer to the spiritual realm because they are the closest to have just been born.
Open.
Yeah,
I feel like because they have imagination, and you kind of lose that when you're older.
Well, some people also think that I'm trying to figure out how to say this. Some priests think that since they were closer to birth,
okay,
and
so
closer
like
to, like,
they were God, yeah.
They are more susceptible to
descended from heaven to become a human.
Yeah.
And
some
priests
think, yeah,
are closer to that.
Yeah.
Okay, I kind of understand that.
Yeah. So, in April 19th, 2012. So they moved in November. They've been having all these problems, but 2012 is when this really kicks off. So Latoya decided to take her kids to the local doctor. She took them to their pediatrician, and she wanted to make sure there wasn't anything mentally wrong with them. Like, I'm sure she probably thought, okay, there might be ghosts in our house, but them acting out, cursing at me and my mom, they were using words that they usually wouldn't use, and they were also had these different voices, kind of. They weren't super low, but they would growl at them when they got mad, or she just wanted to make sure that, you know, there wasn't any mental problems going on. Yeah. He said later that he did feel uneasy when the kids came into the room, but while they were there, the 7-year-old boy started cursing at the doctor, and then the 9-year-old chimed in as well. He's a boy too. The 9-year-old then all of a sudden lunged at the doctor, and the medical staff had to like calm him down and pull him off of the doctor. Police officers and the ambulance arrived to take the boys and the mom and the daughter, everybody, to the hospital. When they got to the hospital, Latoya told them to put olive oil on their heads, and of course the doctors and nurses just all laughed at her, and they figured that her and the kid, at this point they kind of thought, okay, her and the kids are kind of suffering from like delusions or something, or maybe there's something in the house,
mental abuse or something like that. Yeah, they probably thought that.
Yeah. After the boys woke up in the hospital, the youngest boy started screaming, and it took 5 men to calm him down and hold him there. This was when the DCS was called. Of course they were called. And so when DCS was called, because they thought that the kids, they knew that they were missing a lot of school. Abuse, yeah. They knew that there was something going on. So they thought that they were suffering from some sort of abuse. And maybe this was like a coping mechanism. The nurses and the doctors did say that there was no physical abuse, or that the kids did not seem unhealthy. So they had been fed, they didn't have any bruises or anything on them to show that they had been beaten in any way. So that was kind of odd. Yeah. Even the psychologist that taught to, or psychiatrist. I'll get it in a minute. I kept saying that. The psychiatrist that talked to Latoya said that she seemed completely sane, but the things she was claiming were kind of unbelievable, because she was straight up telling them, you know, what was going on, and they weren't believing her. After the caseworker got there, her assessment was that Latoya was mentally ill, and that it was affecting the children as well. They were kind of feeding off of her delusions, I guess you could say, this is what all the doctors are thinking, and this caseworker. The 7-year-old would growl and roll his eyes in the back of his head. This is all at the hospital. He then lunged at his older brother, the 9-year-old, and started choking him. It took multiple men to pull him off of his own brother. Which, first of all, what the hell? Like, this is a 7-year-old. It shouldn't take multiple people.
All these people trying to hold him down. I would be freaking out. I'd be like, what the hell is this kid on? Yeah. I'd be like, damn.
And also, it kills me. Well, we're about to get into some shit, and I'm just like... Anyway, I'll just keep going. So, the caseworker later that night took the grandmother, Rose, and the 2 boys... And I think, there was a nurse, a psychologist. So it was the grandmother, Rose, the 2 boys, a nurse, a psychologist, and her, the caseworker. Yeah. They all went to a separate room. 7-year-old was growling again at his brother, and then started talking with an adult man's voice and saying, "It's time to die." And he also said, "I will kill you." The 9-year-old boy then started running at his grandmother. First of all, sidetrack. I don't know if this was the 9-year-old boy or the 7-year-old boy. I kind of got confusion between what I had read and then what I saw in the documentary. So it's one of the boys. Started running at his grandmother and ramming his head into her stomach over and over again. Rose then, the grandmother, started praying and holding his hand and saying, "You're not my grandson." While she was praying, the boy then began to have an evil grin on his face, this huge, wide, weird smile. Then he started to walk backwards towards the wall, all while she was holding his hand. She was still praying. And as he walked backwards towards the wall, keep in mind the psychologist, the grandmother, everybody's standing there. Yeah. the boy keeps walking and walks backwards up the wall and then starts walking on the ceiling and still while holding his grandmother's hand, and then flips over on the other side and lands on her other side. At this point, everyone in the room was in complete shock. The caseworker ran out of the room, and the psychologist. They all like took the fuck off. They were like, "Fuck this shit."
Yeah, I wouldn't be like, "Okay."
And
bye.
Also, so for anybody that's like, "That didn't really happen," it's literally documented in the case file that happened. Yeah. There's like 800 pages of this case between like the police, doctor, psychologist, caseworkers, because there's like 3 different caseworkers that work on this, because some of them just say fuck it, I'm out, deuces, I quit. So there's a lot.
I'd be like, no, I'm good.
There's a lot of shit involved in this. Very, very interesting. So the caseworker, like I said, runs out of the room immediately. They all run to the doctor. When the doctor came back into the room, he said, "Show me this trick again that you were doing, climbing up the wall." The boy just laughed and said, "I can't walk up walls," and kind of like in a nonchalant voice with sarcasm. And the grandmother was like, "That ain't my grandson." But, of course, they thought she was crazy. The RNs at this point started saying that they thought that the boy was possessed by demons. The caseworker then said it seemed like the family was being taunted by something evil. Latoya and her 7-year-old son stayed at the hospital for the night, while Rose and the other kids went to a relative's house. The next morning, when the family all got back to the hospital, they decided to throw the youngest, who was 7, a birthday party. So apparently he turned 8 that day. So now he's 8. Keep that in mind. At this time, the DCS worker came back into the room and told Latoya that they were going to have to take the kids because they feared that the children were being neglected simply because they had missed so much school, and also they needed more evidence. I don't know why the fuck they needed more evidence to prove that something weird was going on, but whatever.
Yeah.
So,
and if they talked with the kids individually, asking if there was any kind of mental abuse, you think that they would finally, after all that time, confess and be like, "Oh yeah, there has been mental abuse," but it hasn't happened.
Yeah. Well, also, like, in the caseworker's reports, she was even writing that the kids were experiencing supernatural and emotional stress. So, what? That's a report? So
I guess they just
That's something you can put in a report. That blows my mind. Like,
it's just, I think they just looked at that. Oh, emotional. So they're being emotionally abused.
The DCS took the kids. They were all crying, and the mother was, clinging to her kids, trying to, keep them, but they took them, unfortunately. After this, the hospital chaplain called Father Mike to come to see the family. The chaplain told him that it seemed like the children or maybe just one of the boys needed an exorcism. Father Mike came to the house after Mass on Sunday. So this is when he comes to the house for the first time. He talked to them for about 4 hours. They showed him all the kids. They showed him all kinds of things in the house.
Okay.
Sorry.
I thought you were going to say pictures of kids.
No, they showed him all kinds of things in the house. Like the footprints, because the boot print was still there on the ground, which I thought was really strange. But they showed him the boot print.
Was it like dirt, or like did it burn into the wood or something like that?
I don't know. I didn't ever figure that part out. He said he felt an unsettling presence in the house, and things started moving, lights started flickering while he was in the house as well. Then Latoya told Father Mike that she was starting to get a very bad headache. She also complained that her shoulders were getting very tense, to which he decided to place a crucifix on her forehead. When he did, she started convulsing. After this, he knew that there was something in the house that needed to be cast out. He told Latoya and Rose to get out of the house and stay with someone else. He then said a prayer and then sprinkled, holy water everywhere. He was worried that something had attached itself to... Sorry. My cat. just tell him to quit.
Hey, can you stop licking your asshole right in front of me? Like, literally right in front of me. Like, I can hear it, smell it.
Nice.
Everything.
What was I talking about?
Sorry.
That's fine. He was worried that, like I said, that something had attached itself to Latoya as well as the kids. But he had not met the kids yet. He just was going off of what he had heard.
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks later, the caseworker from DCS and 2 police officers went to the house with the family to conduct an inspection of the home. So this is like, normal inspection stuff that they have to do, DCS, because they have to make sure that the kids are in good living conditions. The captain of the police department was one of the policemen to show up. So he showed up, and then other, just regular officers. The captain said that he never was one to believe in demons, ghosts maybe, but not evil spirits. However, while in the home, he said that he felt very uneasy. Father Mike was also there at the house. Latoya didn't want to go into the house. She was like, no, I'm good, thanks. And she stayed outside. Yeah, I would have done it.
You couldn't pay me enough, but thank you.
Rose, the grandmother, however, did go into the house. She took them in, and Rose then told everyone about the evil forces and everything, and showed them all different kinds of spots in the house, because the family was trying to make DCS and the police and everybody understand that this really was happening, and Father Mike was also trying to help them show that it's not neglect, it's actually like unknown forces. Of course, that's really hard to portray to people that work as officials and can only really think about the logical side of things. So that's why they take them to the house multiple times. Actually, you'll find out. I just wanted to get that out there. Then they head down to the basement. So after being in the basement for about 10 minutes, things start happening. There was a door leading to another room in the basement. So that, there's another room that's empty in the basement. Every time one of the officers would look at it and then look away and then look back, the door seemed to move in different positions. Like it might be half closed, then open, then all the way shut, then all the way open. So it was really weird.
Yeah.
They tried questioning Rose with an audio recorder, but it wouldn't record. The batteries were drained, which was odd because they had just been changed that morning. So once they got new batteries in it, they were able to record her, and some of what she was saying, they could only get some of it. But later when they played it back, they could hear a voice that was kind of a deep voice, and it kept saying, hey, just over and over again. Almost as if someone was right up in the mic too. So it wasn't like it was like a hey or hey. It was like up in there.
Hey.
Yeah. Yeah. The photos that they took in the basement, they said later showed white figures that had faces. So these are the photos that the police took in the basement that had faces that looked like a woman. Even one of the police officers took a photo with his iPhone, and later when looking at them, he saw shadowy figures all over the house. And that's what Latoya and the grandmother and everybody was saying that they saw in the house,
When you said iPhone, I was like, what? And then I remember this is in 2011. It's
I know,
just so shocking,
right? It's weird
to think about that. I'm because
most of the ones that we've done, they've been in the 70s,
50s, yeah. And then when you said that, I was like, oh crap, yeah, it's in 2011.
Yeah, it's crazy. The captain said that in the basement there was a dirt floor, and under the stairs he saw a candle in a pan, which made him wonder if they were the family, if they were doing some sort of ritual or some sort of satanic thing, or maybe someone that lived there previous had done this, and that's what was going on. So it was just kind of suspicious for him, However, the captain said that after he left the house, he got a couple of miles down the road. He then pulled over to make a phone call, which, who knows, he probably didn't really pull over. He was just trying to say that because he's a police officer.
Yeah.
He's not supposed to drive.
I pulled over
to make this phone call. Anyways, while he was on the phone, his police radio started messing up, like making these weird noises, and all of a sudden he heard a very loud voice, deep loud voice say, "Are you there?" Even the person on the phone heard it as well. So that was kind of weird, because once he answered, nobody was there.
Yeah.
Latoya's kids, 12 and 8, were put into an emergency shelter for kids. The youngest son, who's now 8, but he was 7 at the time. Did I say 12 and 8? I meant 12 and 9. And the youngest is 8. Sorry. The youngest was sent to a psychiatric hospital where he was to be evaluated. The psychiatrist asked him about the hauntings and demons, and he gave no answers, or they would, like, all of his answers would change every time that he was talking to her. Mm-hmm. He would ask her odd, morbid questions, though, like, can you die if you go to space? And, like, all these different death questions. It's really weird. But at the same time, my kid asked some weird questions, too. So, yeah. Adeline would be, they'd be like, what?
We need to take her now.
Yeah.
Would, like, take her. Like, something's wrong with her.
She thought that he was just being influenced by his mother's delusions to say weird things because he was getting, like, attention from it, you know?
Yeah.
The older kids were evaluated as well, and they came up with the same conclusion with them also, that everybody was just feeding off of the mom's delusions. However, all 3 kids' stories were completely the same, and they were questioned alone at different times, but all their stories were the same about the house. So, I mean, that's some pretty intense coaching for a mother to do.
And especially with a kid, because a kid can, like, if you tell them all that, they're going to forget things.
Yeah. And 3 of them? Like,
yeah. It's just not possible.
DCS, however, gave Latoya supervised visitation, but she was not allowed to talk about demonic possessions or hauntings or anything like that. If she wanted to get them back, she needed a place to live as well. The doctors thought, like I said, that if they went back to the house, they would, it's not that they believed that the house was possessed, but they believed that if she got the kids back and they went back to the same house, then the delusions would just keep happening. So they wanted her to have a whole new house.
Yeah.
A job, you know, all this stuff.
But that's hard to ask of a person.
Yeah. I thought it was a little crazy. She did everything, though, that she was supposed to do in order to get her kids back. When DCS had to do another inspection of the home, you have to have, like, multiple inspections. They just have to keep it in the books. However, this caseworker did not want to go this time. She was so the first caseworker, she was traumatized by what she saw in the hospital the night that the 9-year-old, it was the 7-year-old, sorry, my bad, he walked up the wall. And she couldn't explain it, so she also, like, quit her job, and not long after this even moved, like, out of Gary, Indiana. Like, she was, like, really disturbed by what she saw.
I wonder what she saw.
The kid walking up the wall.
Oh, I thought you were talking about somebody else that they saw something. I was like,
no, she was so traumatized by that, and, you know, when she went to the house, she did feel uneasy, but that wasn't the main thing. It was just the kid walking up the wall backwards, which, bitch, I would have been too. I would have had some serious therapy bill, would have been real strong after that. It also needs to be said that even some of the police officers who visited the home the first time, they also left town as well. And, like, moved out and moved to a different police station. Like, they were, like, Audi 5000.
Audi 5000? I'm Audi, guys. 5,000. And they just walk out.
Have you never heard that?
No. I haven't heard that.
Sorry, that might be an old 90s reference. So anyways, the second time they got to the house to inspect it, the captain was there, a few new police officers, a new caseworker, and also Father Mike. And Latoya decided to go this time. They go down to the basement again. Why the fuck they keep going down there, I'll never understand, but whatever. Once down there, the new caseworker said that she could see something sticky on the ceiling. she felt her hand across it, and it was like a sticky liquid. Shut up. A sticky liquid on the ceiling.
What is this?
It wasn't white, but it was thick. The men then started to dig underneath the stairs, because I think it was kind of, you know how in like a basement, like the stairs to the basement. You know how the basement under, like it was that part of the ceiling.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they started to dig where the sticky substance was, because they saw on the floor that there was like dirt, like a dirt. What's the word I'm looking for? Like ground? Just a dirt ground type area, kind of. So, anyways, I thought it was really weird. When they digged,
wait, hang on. Was it like a green substance?
No.
I was thinking of like Ghostbusters.
I mean,
and then also I was thinking of
Ghostbusters.
Holy shit.
Amityville Horror?
Yeah. I went, Amityville. Because they said they saw green oozes coming from the wall.
So, when they were digging, this is what they found in the ground, about 4 foot in the ground. These are weird objects, but kind of fucking creepy. So, they found a press-on pink fingernail, a pair of women's white underwear, a comb, a red tin, 2 children's socks with the bottoms cut off, candy wrappers, a tin for a shirt, a pin for a shirt.
I was wondering. I was like, I've never heard of that.
Like, what the fuck? And then a heavy metal bar. These objects were buried underneath, like I said, 4 foot. Father Mike spread blessing salt all over the area after they like took everything out and covered the hole back up. He then poured holy water all over the area and like everywhere down in the basement. He kind of just blessed it. When they went back upstairs, the officer found a slick oil substance on one of the blinds in the bedroom, but couldn't figure out what it was. They cleaned it off, and then they left the room, and they put in the door I think it was like a Q-tip or something, or a piece of paper, so that way it would show that if somebody went in there and like messed with the blinds, the object would fall from the door and it would be moved.
Oh, okay.
So they did that. They went about their business throughout the house for about 30 minutes. Then they came back to the room. They could tell that the door had not been opened because the Q-tip was still there. Yeah. When they got in there, though, however, there was the oil back on the blinds. This oily, nasty substance.
It was ghosts.
There was no explanation, and everyone decided it was time to, like, leave and get out of there. Aside from the fact that everybody just felt really ill and just was done with it. They all started feeling... Latoya started having a sharp pain in her head again and in her shoulder. So her and the caseworker left and went outside. Everyone was out on the porch when Father Mike walked out of the house. He looked white as a ghost, and the captain asked him what was wrong. When he asked him what was wrong, he said the blinds are now dripping with that substance. So to the point where it was like you could see it like dripping off.
So was it just clear?
I think so. I think it was like just a clear oily substance.
That's weird.
Yeah.
I've never really heard of that in a ghost story.
Yeah.
But this is more demons, so I don't know about that.
Father Mike at this point knew that it was time to perform an exorcism on the house. The Bishop of Gary, however, denied his request at first and told him to contact another priest to try and perform an exorcism on Latoya to try to like kind of see if the demons would just leave. Why the fuck they always start doing that? Because it never works, but whatever. They met at the house with Latoya and he did what he called a blessing on her. He told Latoya to try and see if she could figure out the names of the demons that they were dealing with before he started the exorcism, because that kind of helps make it easier, because we know that like if you know the names of the demons that are inside of a person, it makes it easier to like particularly identify them. Yeah. So she and one of her friends started like searching the internet, which I thought was crazy, to see if there was any demons that matched. And there were a few, like
the name
Lord of the Fly demon. I can't think of the name. I can't think of it right now. I want to say Beelzebub, but I don't think that's it. And it might be...
Do we know the name or...
I don't know. They didn't ever figure out, really pinpoint what it was.
Yeah.
Or which demon it was.
Mm-hmm.
However, Latoya at this time started feeling worse and nothing seemed to be working. So the bishop decided to give them permission to do the exorcism. June 2012, Father Mike performed 3 exorcisms on Latoya at his church. During the exorcism, she experienced pain. She said that it was worse than childbirth. She gave birth to 3 kids, so no thanks.
Wow.
It took weeks for him to perform all these exorcisms, hours and hours at a time. And if you guys have listened to any of our exorcism stories, then you know how exorcisms are performed. So I'm not going to get into all of that because that's way long. So she was also having nightmares at this time and just over and over again. But luckily, her and her mother found another place to live during this time as well. So she didn't have to go through all this and go back to the houses too. Finally, he performed the last exorcism in Latin, and it seemed to work because all the paranormal symptoms were gone. And that's another thing. All these exorcisms, they start off in English, and it doesn't ever seem to work. But then when they get to the Latin, it works. And I'm like, just start off there.
Start with the Latin. Then if it doesn't work with the Latin, then go to the English. Come on, guys.
Maybe they got to break them down. I don't know. She eventually got her kids back, and in the new house that they moved into, they had no paranormal experiences, which is great. In February 2013, after the final caseworker came to the new house, she said that there are no new demonic talks, nobody's talking about it. There's no paranormal experiences that anyone seems to be.
I would thoroughly check.
Yeah.
After
there's
all this
no
shit.
paranormal experiences that anybody seems to be talking about, so they decided to close the case. Like I said, there's over 800 pages of this haunting, which includes reports from DCS, police, interviews with families, doctors, priests, and anyone else who was involved. She released these records to the news, and like I said, she kept her kids' names out of it, but she wanted to release these records to the news because she didn't want people thinking that she was lying. It also kind of could have hurt her because, of course, the psychologist reports were all saying that she was delusional.
Yeah.
And that she was neglectful. So I don't think she would have released this if she was lying because
what would she gain for it?
Yeah, she could see that people would think, oh, well, she was just crazy and delusional, and she actually needs her kids taken away from her. So let's kind of talk a little bit about Zak and what happened when he was filming the documentary.
Okay.
He talked to everyone that was involved with the story: the priest, the police, caseworkers, all that. However, Latoya didn't want to talk to him, like I said. And, I talked about why. She said that it was because he went into the house and she didn't want anything coming back to her from him, which I completely understand. He also couldn't get anyone to stay there. So, when the... Zak, when he first got to the house, there was a squatter living there. And the squatter, he gave him some money and was like, okay, you need to go on your way. And this is at the beginning.
The squatter, have you seen
He did.
anything?
He asked him, and he said, the man told him, he was like, man, I've seen some crazy shit in here. He was like, okay. Zak did find out that Latoya's stepmother told the media that she was lying about everything and that they were upset because she had drugged the family into this when she didn't need to and blah, 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 which that doesn't really mean anything to me. Zak did not... he did have the house inspected by an inspector. The inspector did find mold, asbestos, and carbon monoxide poisoning kind of in there. So he thought, okay, this could have caused a lot of crazy symptoms, delusions, things like that, because it can. But he started to get very suspicious of this is a fluke, this is not paranormal, this sucks, That is, however, until he met Mika. So she was someone who lived in the house in the 90s with her mother. She told him a friend of theirs who would come spend the night back then would always say that she could hear footsteps and people walking around the house all the time at night. She then went down to the basement with Zak, and she had her 3 kids with her, which I don't know why the hell you'd bring your kids, but whatever. When she was walking down the stairs, she told one of her kids, she was like, "Oh, don't kick me in the leg." And one of the kids was like, "I didn't kick you in the leg." Well, then they played the tape back, and this is on the documentary. They played the tape back, and you can see where her leg, like, kind of gets pushed out, but there's nothing behind the leg to push it. She said her brother, when they lived there, would stay in the basement in the back room. You know, like that creepy room that I told you about? Mm-hmm. She kept having dreams that someone in her family was going to die, and she kept telling her family over and over, and nobody would listen to her. And after the dreams stopped, her brother was actually shot and killed. Mm-hmm. After going back upstairs with the kids during the documentary, her kids and her felt very uneasy, and they wanted to, like, leave the house. Zak and the crew set up an altar in the living room and the basement. Of course they did, with cameras and everything. Zak started acting really strange. He started yelling. He would tell this crew to fuck off or get out or blah, blah, blah. But you don't ever know if that's, like, just him acting, you know? Yeah. Zak claimed he didn't remember all this, of course. He even talked to the caseworker who saw the boy crawl up the wall, and she said that she was very terrified. Like I said, she quit her job. She, like, moved. She was, like, done, you know. Yeah. Other caseworkers who took over after her had multiple accidents during the time that they were doing this case. Like, serious injury accidents. Like, we're talking broken bones and, like, just weird accidents that didn't really make any sense. The home inspector that Zak got to come look for, like, the mold and stuff, after he inspected the home, he almost died when heading home because a tree, like, fell over and almost hit his car. He then he woke up one night barely able to breathe because he said that he had, like, a super, like, terrifying nightmare, and it felt like somebody was choking him to death. He also then got diagnosed with cancer not too many months after he had went to the house, and, like,
damn,
yeah,
those ghosts really didn't like him.
After
demons
Father
were like,
Mike,
nah, fuck you.
Father Mike also had weird experiences, things happening to him during this time with the family, like accidents, and he said that he felt like it was the demons trying to keep him from helping the family. Zak's friend and paranormal investigator, Dottie Constantino, she said that she would help, and she wanted to, like, try and contact the demons for him in the house. She taped the sessions and picked up deep voices saying something is wrong. This is crazy. A few months later, Dottie and her roommate were both murdered by her husband, and then he turned the gun on himself and killed himself. Yeah.
Coincidence? I think not.
It gets crazier. On February 20th, 2014, only 2 days after Mika and her daughter Erica were in the house and her other kids, Erica attempted suicide. She tried to stab herself to death and overdose on medication. The marks where she tried to stab herself, everyone said looked like the crucifixion marks because they were on her wrist. She was, like, stabbing her wrists over and over.
Wow.
After this, crew members started quitting and refused to go near the house again. Zak then brought Father Mike to Mika and Erica to the house, and asked if she, like, remembered anything. Asked Erica, and Erica was, like, really confused. Mika also said that her daughter had been trying to attack her, but Erica didn't remember any of this. Father Mike believed that something had attached itself to her, and he kind of did a blessing back at his church and, like, blessed her and all this stuff, and then she said she felt better after that. Some neighbors said that they knew this is something that the neighbors kind of said in the neighborhood. They said that they claimed there was 5 people that had died in this house, but I don't really know that there wasn't any really evidence of that.
Yeah.
That I know of.
It was just, like, town talk or something.
Yeah, the movie's pretty good. A lot of strange stuff. Of course, there's some dramatization, but I highly recommend it if you want to watch it. One of the crew members started, and this could be, acting as well. He started, when they got back from the house at the hotel, he started vomiting blood. He started screaming in the hallways at the hotel and was screaming at the elevator. One of the things that was really weird was Zak claimed before he even went to the house, before he even knew about the house, he said that he had a dream about this tall, demonic, goat-like man. Okay, he had a nightmare. Then he said that he saw 2 days later, or a couple days later, or whatever, on the news about this case. Yeah. And so he thought, okay, this is the case that I need to, investigate and go do, blah, blah, blah. So then he started doing the documentary. Well, the first day that he made it to the house, he had a friend text him, and you can see the text in the documentary, but that doesn't mean it was, not set up. Mm-hmm. Take it with a grain of salt. But in the text message, his friend, who's a medium, said, you need to get out of the house that you're in because there's a tall, demonic goat man in that house, and it's coming for you. What? So the guy that was vomiting and screaming in the hallways of the hotel that they were staying in, the crew member, when asked later, what were you staring at and talking to at the elevator, because he was standing at the elevator and the elevator doors were open and he was just talking to something, but nothing was there. He said it was a tall, goat man demon. Wow. Yeah. So, if that was all true, holy shit. If it wasn't, very good job on acting and bringing that together, because that's pretty cool. Well, it's not cool, but, if you made all that up. But yeah.
A lot of effort.
I will say, though, one of the crazy things is if they did make it up after this, Zak let that crew member go. He was like, you need to go back home, you're done. Simply because
he's been through too much.
He's been through,
if I was Zak, I'd say fuck this case and I wouldn't do it.
So after, it took them 3 years to finish this because of all, he said it was because of all the stuff that kept happening. Yeah. Some people say it's just because of the, the film and then him trying to get the rights to actually do it, because some film production was, I don't know. Yeah. Trying to make a movie. So anyways, after the film, Zak, who owned the house at this time, like I told you, he demolished the house. He tore it down. He was like, I don't want anybody else ever living there. So they demolished it.
Good on him.
He did, however, take the basement steps, some of the basement steps, and some of the dirt from the house, and it's back at his museum or whatever. A lot of people say that the empty lot has been subject to satanic rituals. People in the neighborhood have seen people there doing stupid shit. Yeah. And people believe the house is actually built on a portal to hell. So that's that.
If there's 200 demons, I can believe the portal to hell kind of thing, because that's a lot of demons.
I couldn't figure out any background on this house. I know it's an old house. It was an old house. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to know, how old. We're talking, 1800s. I want to know who lived there. Yeah. The Conjuring. Give me some juice.
Give me some juice.
Give me some tea. But I couldn't find anything. And I think that's because that landlord, Charles, he was like, no, this shit's fake. No, none of it's real. It's just a house. But then at the same time, I'm just kind of like, well, that's something you would say if you're trying to sell a house.
Yeah, you wouldn't be like, oh, yeah, there's a lot of creepy stuff.
There's so many demons.
If you're trying to sell a house, that's not something you wouldn't say.
And this wasn't a house that she had bought, Latoya and her family. This was just one she was renting. But, of course, there's, contract when you rent a house and all this other stuff. So, I'm not really sure how she got out of the contract. But... I guess she didn't have to get out of the contract because they stayed there for a year. So, but yeah, that's it. It's pretty crazy. The one thing that gets me out of all of it, the kids cursing and yelling and punching and all that, whatever. If that would have just been in this case, I would have probably not done it. But the walking up the wall backwards and multiple people seeing it and documenting it on an actual government document, because she wrote it in her report. Official report is blows my mind. I'm like,
and there's like no
how
kind
do you
of,
explain that?
like there's no kind of like he put something on his shoes or something
Yeah.
like that. Like he was carrying the grandmother as well, and I don't think
No, he wasn't carrying her. He was
wasn't?
holding her hand.
oh
So he was holding her hand, and then he just, as she's holding his hand, he's walking up,
Oh.
and then he walks on the ceiling, and then he flips behind her.
Nah,
Yeah.
Peter Pan up in here.
Peter Pan.
He's really Peter Pan.
Peter Pan up in this bitch.
Take me to Neverland. Anyway, but no, that's not true. I mean that's not true. That it could be like something sticky or like
Yeah. Well, nobody came up with an like that was the one
there's
thing
no
that
explanation.
the psychologists were like, yeah, I don't know. They're delusional. I don't know what the fuck that was, but they're delusional. So that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
And they're over here like they're crazy. Got to take these, but I don't know what that was. But we're not gonna even think about that. I'm just like, what?
Well, it's kind of like that movie. Oh gosh, what's that movie?
What?
That movie with the guy that has the girls in the basement and he's got split personality. Split.
Yeah.
You know how in that movie the psychologists are like, well, your other personality just has like superhuman strength.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if that's what they think. Like this other personality in this kid just had superhuman
but
strength.
how the hell are you gonna
But
have
how are
strength and
you
climb up
still-
the walls?
Yeah.
Like no.
I'm not saying that's what they said. I'm just saying I wonder if that's
Like
what
I
they
would
were
understand that when they thought, all those people getting onto him and he's like got all that strength out of nowhere, but still like.
Mm-hmm.
Also, that was weird too. Why didn't they be like, what do they think? Like this kid's on fucking steroids?
Yeah.
Like they're like, oh my god, he's so strong. I don't know why.
Took 5 men to get him off of somebody. So anywho, that is the story of the Demon House. You can watch the documentary. It's pretty good. It's not terrible. That it's pretty much it. I mean, yeah. And I don't really have anything else I want to talk about, so
That was good though.
yeah, it was very interesting, I thought. And the fact that it happened not too long ago. It wasn't something back in the 70s.
Like every time you said 2011, I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's shocking. 'Cause my mind's always way back there.
Yeah. So maybe they'll make a movie about it. I don't know if she really wants to get famous off of it. I mean, she hasn't so far, so and this was back in 2014 when he made this documentary. So, I mean, it's been that long and she hasn't, maybe she decided to change her mind with the movie production. I don't know. But anywho, all right, guys. Well, we hope that you enjoyed today's episode. Jeez. We hope that you enjoyed today's episode, and we will see you guys Tuesday. Yeah, probably Tuesday.
Okay.
We got to do some. Something different. I think we're gonna go back to murder. I've got one from New Orleans that one of our listeners.
We're going back to
I
murder.
think we're going back to murder. True crime, I believe so.
I believe it's time.
I don't know if you guys want to hear some different stories, though. I do have some different stories. This listener that we have from New Orleans, shout out to that person. They emailed me some interesting stories from New Orleans.
Got our first emailer.
First emailer.
So
we've
excited.
also hit almost 900 listeners / downloads.
Yay.
So that's pretty cool. So yeah, but we got to pump those numbers up on Instagram. So y'all need to follow us. We might try to do a live in the next couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe next weekend. Maybe not this weekend, but next weekend. We'll see. And we'll post it on our Instagram, so make sure you follow us on there at Love of the Freaks Podcast. You can also please leave us a review on Apple iTunes or a review anywhere where you're listening, because that really helps. It really helps us. And also follow us. Follow us on YouTube. I don't know if you guys know this, but we have a YouTube channel. That's where most of these go. They go to YouTube and they go to Spotify, Apple, all that. So anywhere that you can follow us on, please follow us, because that helps us as well. And so, yeah. We will see you guys next time.
Bye.
Don't let the demons get you.